Hey, this is MJ, and in today's tutorial I'm going to be showing you how to make this gorgeous cabled cardigan. The yarn that I've used for this cardigan is Brava Sport, and it is from We Crochet, and the link will be in the description box below. The color I'm using is Cobblestone Heather, but there are many gorgeous colors available from crochet.com. Working with a 4.5 millimeter crochet hook. It is a G+, and this is my Furls Turquoise Odyssey hook, and there'll also be links in the description box where you can purchase these hooks as well. So the cardigan is worked in a total of 6 pieces. We'll be working a back panel, 2 front panels, 2 sleeves. I have 1 sleeve here, and then we'll also be working a collar that goes around the cardigan. So we'll work through each of the pieces, and then they'll need to be seamed together. So now, before you begin, it's always important to make a gauge swatch. So it's a good idea to make a small swatch before you begin, just to make sure that you have the right hook size and yarn so that your sizing will be similar. So I've worked up this in half double crochets. So to do your gauge swatch, just work half double crochets, and you want 16 stitches and 12 rows in 4 inches. I'll be working through the 2X pattern with you today, but this pattern includes extra small all the way to 5X. It's one of 7 designs featured in Crochet Foundry's fall magazine, and there'll be links in the description box. And we focus in this magazine on providing you all-inclusive sizing. The cardigan is worked from the bottom up, and all of our pieces begin the same way with a band. I'll have a pop-up come up that will show you how many rows for each of your pieces. It's even a great idea just to start out working up all of your bands to begin with, and then continuing on with the rest. So for the back panel, it will be our largest band that we need to make at 110 rows. But I'm going to start working up here. I've already worked my back panel, so I'm going to work up one of the front panels here for you. But they all begin the same way. So let's make a slip knot, putting that on the hook, and we're using our 4.5 millimeter throughout the pattern. And we're going to begin by chaining 21. Okay, so I've worked up 21 chains, and now we'll work in the second chain from the hook, 1 single crochet. Yarn over, pull through. So we're working through the chain, grabbing our yarn, pulling up a loop, yarning over, and pulling through 2. And we'll work that all the way along the chain. So I've worked all the way across, and I have a total now of 20 stitches. So at the end of the row, we'll chain 1 and turn. Now we'll be working in the back loops only of every stitch. So if we examine our stitch here, you can see this is our front loop, and then the loop here to the back is the back loop. So instead of going under the stitch like we would normally, we're just working in the back loop. So push through that loop only and work a single crochet. So the entire band is worked in the back loop only, working single crochets. So I'll continue working that along, and then I'll meet you up at the end. Across 20 stitches, and then we'll chain 1 and turn. Again, working in the back loop. So all of our bands are worked exactly the same way. So I will just sort of recap what my pop-up should tell you. For the back panel, we want 110. for our 2 front panels, we want 46 rows. And for our 2 sleeves, we want 50 rows. Okay, so I just want you to keep working your bands until you can complete all of them, or work them up each individually. That's fine. So I have one of my front panels here. If you're working your back panel, it's very, very simple. So here's my front panel. We work half double crochets and then we have our cabling design. So the back panel has no cabling, so it's all worked in half double crochets. So it's really simple. We're just going to work across here and then we're just going to work half double crochets in rows. So the back panel is 110. You'll continue with 110 stitches working back and forth until you have 81 rows of half double crochet. So the back is really simple, and I have my back panel here completed. So it's just worked in the half double crochets. Really straightforward, but the front panels are a little more complicated, so I wanted to work through them with you. So I've already worked my front left panel. So the only difference with our panels is the front left has our cabling on this side, and our front right panel will have our cabling on this side. That's the only difference between the 2 front panels. So I have a total of 46 rows for my front panel, and I just like to count the ridges are 2 rows, so 2, 4, 6 all the way across. Here it should be 46. So what we'll do is we'll chain 1, and now we're working along the long edge here of the band. So what we'll do is work 1 single crochet per row that we've worked. So for every row we're adding 1 single crochet, so you should have a total of 46 once you've worked across. So we'll put 1 in the first. Then here this row kind of bumps up a little bit, and that's how I know I need to put a single crochet there. And then sort of my down, the one that goes in, it's sort of just, you can see the hole here. So that's row 3. Row 4, I'm going into the bumpy section, and so on, and work all the way across so you have a total of 46 stitches. So I'm getting to the end, so 46 should end right here. And now we'll chain 2 and turn. So this is the right side of, that's the right side of our work. So now we're on to the wrong side, and we're working a row of half double crochets, and this will set us up for the cabling pattern. So for this row, all we'll do is work half double crochets in every stitch across. So yarn over, go right through the stitch, pulling up a loop, yarn over, and pull through all 3. So we're just working half doubles in every stitch across. So I'll complete that and meet you up. Okay, so now we'll chain 2 and turn. And we're back to the right side. So if this is the right side, I need to start my cabling here. If I was working the left panel, we're going to work half double crochets across and then start our cabling pattern. So our cabling is, each of our cables here are 4 stitches. So 4 times 4 is 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. So the cable is worked across 21 stitches. So now what we're going to do is, see here, this is our first post. So we're going to work a front post double crochet around that. And that will be the border that you can see here. The next will be the cable. So it's a 4-stitch cable. So we're going to skip over those first 2 posts. Just move this out of the way. So skipping these, and then we're working into the next two. So we're going to do a front post treble crochet. So yarn over twice, skip two, we're going around the post and completing the front post treble. Yarn over twice, go around the next post, and a front post treble. Complete that. So now what we need to do is work back into the 2 stitches that we've skipped. So yarn over twice, and we're always going to work over top, and that makes this pattern a little easier. So we're going over top, going around the post, and completing our front post treble. We'll yarn over twice, find that next skip stitch, and complete our front post treble. Now the next post, we want to border it as well. So we're bordering with a front post double crochet. So yarn over, okay, so now we're just going to repeat this. We want 4 of these cables, and we're bordering them all with a front post. So I'll work through it one more time, and then I'll work across the rest myself. So we'll skip those 2 posts, yarn over twice, working a front post treble around the next, yarn over twice, front post treble around the next, yarn over twice, front post treble back into this first skip stitch, and front post treble around the next skip stitch, and then find the next post and do a front post double crochet. Okay, so I'm going to repeat that 2 more times, and then I'll meet you up. Okay, so you can see I've got my 4 cables, and they're bordered with the front posts. So now what we'll do is work half double crochets in the remaining stitches across. Okay, so what I did is I worked across 24 stitches. So here's 24, this is 21, so that brings us up to 45, and we're now counting that beginning chain 2 as a stitch. We'll need to add a half double crochet in it when we work back across, just so we have that border there on the side. So I'm only going to work across the 24 instead of 25. So instead of sort of going into that first, you're just working across the 24 stitches. So now we'll chain 2 and turn. We're to the wrong side of our work, so I'm going to work across 24. So I'm going to work that across, and then I'll meet you up when we get to the cables. So I've worked across 24 half double crochets. So now we get to the cabling. So what we're doing is back post double crochets in every cabled stitch across. So we yarn over. If you need to look, you can see here's the first post. So we're going to work around it, back post double. So we want this to stay puffed up on this side, not this side. So back post double around the next post. You can sort of feel for them with your fingers too. So yarn over, we'll get the next one. The next 2 will kind of be tucked down, so you can feel them there with your fingers. Okay, so we'll just work across and then I'll meet you at the end. Okay, so I've worked all that section and now we'll work half double crochets in every stitch and cross. And I just really like to count these half doubles as I go to make sure I'm sticking with that 24 throughout this pattern. So I'll work those all the way across, but now I just want to take a peek now back at our left panel. Okay, so when we're wearing it, it's going to be like this. Now we're going to have a ribbed collar that's going to go around the entire piece. But now if we're working our other panel, what we're going to do is we'll chain 2, and then we'll work across 24 stitches. And then we'll go into that cabling pattern, and we're always adding a half double in that turning chain here as well. Okay, so it's the same idea. It's just one panel you're starting with your cable, the other panel you're starting with your half double crochet. So as long as you can work this cable fine, you're doing okay. And if the cabling you just can't get the hang of and you want to just work the entire sweater in half double crochet, that's completely fine too. But this just adds some texture and just some extra detail to your piece. So I'm going to complete working this off camera, but that's all I'm going to show you for the panels. You can go back, and the next row again we just work back post doubles across, and then we hop right back into the cable pattern. So you can rewatch me going through those rows if you need to, but what I just want you to do is work until you have 81. So we're ending on the wrong side, which is the back post side. And I'm not including that single crochet row. So when I say 81, that is just when we start the half doubles. Would be 82 if you include that row of single crochet. So you can go ahead and complete your 2 front panels as well as your back panel, and it's the same. You want to work until you have 81 of the half double crochet rows, all half double crochet. And next, I'm just going to show you how to complete the sleeves. Okay, so I have my band already made, so it's worked exactly the same as I showed you at the beginning. But now our sleeve cuff has a total of 50 rows. So I already have my 50 rows completed, and again, you can just count along and you should be ending here with this nice ridge at 50. And we're going to work across the same way I showed you with the front panel. We'll chain 1 and work single crochets all the way across. So we will have a total of 50 when we work all the way across this band. Okay, so I'm ending here with 50 stitches. We'll chain 2 and turn. So here's my other sleeve. We're making 2 sleeves exactly the same. And I find it's a good idea to grab a stitch marker. I like putting the stitch marker as I go on my increase. You can have a whole bunch and put them as you go, or you can just use one and carry it up. It just kind of helps you remember what row is an increase and what row isn't. So to begin, we're just working half double crochets in every stitch across. So staying at 50 stitches. Okay, so we'll complete working across in half double crochets, and I'll work a total of 3 rows, and then I'll meet you up for the increase. We'll be increasing on every 4th row. For our 2x, I need to increase a total of 18 stitches. So the increases will be worked over a total of 9 rows. So I'm going to complete my 3 rows off camera, then I'll meet you up. Okay, so I've worked my 3 rows at 50 stitches. So now this is how your increase rows will work. yarn over, and we'll put 2 half double crochets in the first stitch. Work all the way across in half doubles, and then in the final stitch we'll add 2 half doubles as well. So what I like to do is just mark it, and then I know I need to do 3 more rows at 52 stitches, and then I'll do another increase row. So you're going to keep working this pattern, 3 non-increase, 1 increase, until you have a total of 68 stitches for your sleeve. Then, depending on your sleeve length, I'm going to go with 18 inches. So I'll keep working. First I'll work until I have 68 stitches, and then I'll work until I have about 18 inches. Now, if you don't want your sleeve as long, then you can just shorten that up. Now, I'm planning that this cuff can kind of fold up, so if you need to shorten up the sleeve, you can just fold your cuff, or just don't work your sleeve as long. So I'm just going to keep working the sleeve off camera. I already worked my other sleeve here to a total of 68 stitches and a total of 18 inches long. And now I'll do the same for this. So once you have all of your pieces complete, and I have all mine complete, I'm going to meet back up and we're going to block them. I'll have a pop-up to show you the measurements for blocking. So we'll wet block them, we'll wet the pieces and then pin them out to measurements on some large foam mats with pins. And then once that's completely dried, then we'll start putting the cardigan together, seaming it. So I've laid out all my pieces to block. The most important will be your front panels because the cabling will want to curl in. So I've wet all my pieces, I've pinned them to measurements and allowed them to fully dry. Now I'll begin seaming together the cardigan, and then we'll be adding the collar to it. Now I've laid out my collar as well, and I've just steamed it just to kind of flatten the edges, and then we'll seam that separately to the cardigan once it's all seamed together. Okay, so our next step will be seaming our front panels to the back panel. So what I've done is I laid out first my back panel. This is the right side. You can tell here, this row is going to pop up, that first row of half double crochets, more than the next row. So that's just an easy marker for me to see that this is my right side, and it should look the same sort of as the front panel there. So I have now my front panels. We want the cabling section going to the inside of the cardigan, and I have both panels laid on top. Now what you want to do is go up to the top of your piece, because we're going to work across now our shoulder. You should have some yarn tails left from your front panels. So we'll use our yarn needle. And we're going to match up stitch for stitch through here. So 46 stitches across, so we'll be going through 46 stitches here as well. So just one stitch at a time. I like to always go through the first one here again. And then you just want to find one stitch and one stitch on each side. So we're just going to seam that all the way across, just going through like this. Okay, so I'm going to complete that. Okay, so once you've worked all the way across, I knotted the final stitch, and then I'm just going to weave this end. And I'm just going to leave it like that, just in case I need to make any changes and need to pull that back. But if not, you just weave back in the opposite direction. Okay, so now I'm going to work the other side. Now I had my tail to the outside of this front panel, but I have my tail from the back panel I'm going to use so I can start at this side and count across to make sure I have the right stitch count. And again, we're just going to be going through one stitch each side. Okay, so I have both of my panels now seamed to the back. So the fronts are seamed to the back for our shoulders. And next what we'll do is seam the sleeves. So we'll want to lay out, again, the right sides. And I'll just move it so that we can see here our shoulder seam. So here's my sleeve, and as you can see, the first row there that bumps up a bit more, that's the right side. Now I want to find the center of the sleeve. So the easiest way to do that is I'm just going to fold it in half. And I'm going to mark just the center here with a stitch marker. So now we can line up, we want the right side facing, so the right side of the cardigan. And we want to find that seam right in here. And you can just attach your marker just like that. Make sure everything's laid out nice and even. Then we can take our yarn needle and just seam across the sleeve. When we're seaming this, we just want to go through the stitch, and you're just grabbing part of the cardigan, the piece of the side there. We don't have an actual stitch to go through, just the spaces. You just want to be consistent as you go along with how much you're sticking your needle through. And I try to just do every stitch as I go. Okay, so I finished that, and that's how it should look, seamed across the side. And now we're just going to do the identical thing to the other sleeve. Okay, so the sleeves are attached. We still have the sides to seam up, but I wanted to show you here how you can do the edging. The edging is what we're going to attach our collar to. So when we're working the edging, we know we have 20 stitches here, and I have a total of 85 rows. Now our half double crochet rows, 2 half double crochet rows are equal to 3 single crochet stitches. So what I do to figure out how many stitches to put along the side is I take my 85 rows and I multiply it by 1.5. So I have 85 times 1.5 is 127.5. So we're going to round that up to 128. So 128 plus 20, so we know we need 148 stitches going up the side. Then at the top, our opening should be 18 stitches, and I like one for each corner. So I've added an additional 20 stitches here. So we'll do 148, we'll do 20, and then we'll do 148 all the way down the other side. So in total, you'll have 316 stitches, and our band, that's why our band needs to be 316 rows, because for every row we'll attach to a single crochet. So I'm gonna just go ahead and get joined on here, that bottom stitch to work into. So chain 1 and work a single crochet all the way along, and we're using the 4.5 millimeter hook still. I'm not changing my hook size. Okay, so I've worked up my 20. Now what you want to do is sort of get into a pattern. The holes here on the side are going to be your rows. So for 2 of them, you know you need 3 stitches. So I'm going to do 1, and then I'm going to do 2 in the next. So there's 3. 1, and then 2 in the next. 1, and then 2 in the next. And I'm just going to keep doing that all the way along, and just make sure you count so that you know that you're for sure at the 148 for this in total. Okay, so I've worked up 148 stitches. So now in the corner we're going to have 1, and then we're going to work across. So we want a total of 20. Okay, and when I get to the other side, I'm going to do the same thing down this side. I'm going to find where my 2 rows are here, the spaces, and I'm going to again just do the one stitch and then 2 stitches. And I'm going to make sure I count all the way down so that I stay on track with my stitch count. Okay, so I finished all the way across 148 stitches, and now I am just going to fasten this off. So now all the stitches are worked around to set us up to sew on the collar. So the collar is all worked separately. It's made just like our other bands, with the exception it's not as wide. So instead of 20 stitches, it's 14 stitches in width. So to begin to make that, you're going to chain out 15, work a single crochet in the second chain from the hook and every chain across, so you have a total of 14 stitches. And then you'll begin working your single crochet rows in the back loop only for a total of 316 rows, and that is so each row will line up with 1 stitch along the edge. So we want to just take your collar, fold it. I left a long tail, but you can go with smaller tail and then just join on as you go if you need to. So now you can see the rows. So here's 1 row, 2 row, 3 row, 4 row. So for every row you want to go through 1 stitch along the edge. So then you go through the next stitch and the next row. My tail's pretty long, so it's just having a hard time sticking through there. And the next stitch, and then you're going to be going through the next row. And that's basically the whole process there we're going to do. It's going to take a while because we have all of these rows and stitches to work through. So you just need, again, to If you take a look at your rows, you know, one row you're going to be going through this thicker bumped up section, and then the next row you're looking at the thinner section to go through, and that just kind of helps as you're trying to see what row to go through. So now I know my next one, I'm just really going to be going through that small section. And it's kind of a little bit of a pain when your tail's really long. But that's basically how it's going to work. It's going to look like this. And then all of this can be steamed once we're finished to get a really nice flat finished edge on everything. So I'm going to continue working on that off camera, and then I'll meet you back up for seaming up our sleeves and our sides. Okay, so I completed seaming on all of the band and I gave it a steam just to help flatten that out. I steamed it on both sides, and so we have a nice, it almost looks pressed, a nice finish. And now what I'm doing is right sides facing, I'm going to line up the edge. So we're going to seam all the way up the side, up to the sleeve, and all the way down to the cuff. So you can use 2 strands of yarn, one going up and one going up the sleeve, or if you have a long enough piece, you can just keep working all the way. So I'm just going to take a long strand, and I'm going to begin seaming up the side. So what you're going to do is we're working, I already attached and knotted that, and then we're just working through each stitch across the band. Okay, so I've worked through the band. So now the important thing is that when you're seaming it, you've got this, you can always put some clips if you need to, just that you're seaming it even all the way across up to that underarm section. So at this point, we're just going through a piece on each side. And just seaming all the way up to the underarm, and then I'll work down the sleeve if I have enough yarn. If it looks like I'm going to be too shy, I'll just join on another piece and continue seaming. So now we just need to do this for both sides. So I'm going to complete that, and then I'll meet you up later. Okay, so my sweater is complete. I've steamed it, all the edges, all the seams, and it's come out really, really nice. So this is the 2X size, so it fits about a 57-inch bust, but I have extra small to 5X available in the pattern, and you will find this in Crochet Foundry's fall magazine along with 6 other gorgeous inclusive garment designs. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial.